everyone out there in podcast land. This is Trejen and Tejas and Ozzy and Trejen, and you have reached the Crooke Candle Podcast once again. We're at it.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What episode is this going to be?
13, I believe.
13. Man, feels good.
Hold on, let me check.
Yeah, we're doing
13,
it. Yeah, we've been putting in the work and being professional about it, which kind of is we're gonna end up talking about this. How was your week?
It was good. Although the start to my morning is a little rough, just because I'm a little hungover. So
Me too.
yeah, so wasn't the best idea to. I got a little too crunk.
That last White Claw.
Yeah, that's what's.
You
the
should have
deal.
probably turned it down.
No,
I was thinking
should've.
about that. I was like, it's getting easier to not drink because I'm not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then so for myself, was the end of the week yesterday, Sunday, and we were going to record it in the morning. I was just not. My brain wasn't working really good.
Yeah,
I just didn't feel. I didn't feel it.
Yeah, we scheduled it for 6, but then
That went long. My work, I tattoo, so my tattoo, my first one was late, and so it kind of threw everything off, and I wasn't done until 7, and I hadn't eaten, and I was just like, just let's do it in the morning. So Here we are, and then because it was the end of the week, and I've been such a good boy as regards to drinking, I had some drinks, saw some things, and I wake up in the morning, I'm like, God, I feel horrible. I don't want to. So I don't want to do that much more. But yeah. Oh, but my week's been pretty cool myself because I've been building my new rig.
The new.
Here, I'm going to show it.
Yeah, the GH5.
I'm going to show it off. This is. I've had this camera. We got this back when we started our production company, but it wasn't as rigged out.
Right.
And right now, I have a little dummy battery that's coming that will actually connect this battery and power the whole thing, which is awesome because it's not as big as the Black Magic that we're recording on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like a little compact little rig, and I'm stoked on it.
Yeah, no, it's coming together. It looks good.
Yeah. So, and something else that's interesting.
What's up?
Well, last night I got a call from my oldest friend and brother. I call him my brother because I moved across the street from him when I was 4. Dino Samisi. Actually, I'm going to give you a little picture so you can.
I'll make sure to put a picture up. But yeah, Dino Samisi, he was the front man of Dystopia.
Well, I wouldn't call him a front man because he's behind the drums.
Well, yeah, he's on the drum set, but he is the main guy, right?
Yeah, well, not really. I would say it was because Mouse, the guitarist, he sang. He was a vocalist as well.
Would you consider it like an egalitarian kind of thing?
Yeah, everyone was there.
Like everyone,
and even Todd, the bass player, though he didn't sing, and he kind of just, stayed in his spot. He had this cool, presence about him on stage, and just, so every one of those guys, everyone that's been to a show, they just love the way they do what they do.
Right.
But anyways, I'm going on a trip.
That's right. Next week
on the 10th.
Yeah.
This week.
Oh, this week.
Thursday, okay. I bail.
Wow.
So I'm only going down to the Bay Area for 4 days. It's a mini vacation, which I really need. I just need to get out of Seattle. And I looked at the weather, and it's all nice down there. It's like 70 degrees and sunny. So I'm looking forward to that. And but I was talking to him because he actually called me. He's like, "Hey, I got some important questions because I'm going to be tattooing him for his 51st birthday,
right?
On the 12th." And so he's like, "So are you vaccinated?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's good." I'm like, "I'm boosted too." He's like, "Really? Me too. Cool. Okay, cool." Because Heather, his wife, she's been going through some medical stuff and is on some medication that kind of makes her a little bit immunocompromised.
Right.
So he wanted to make sure I was good, and we had a long conversation about it. But eventually I kind of mentioned the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pleasantly surprised when both of them, because they were both, they were on a speakerphone and they were both talking to me at the same time. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we've listened to it. Yeah, it's really cool. You guys got a great rapport and sounds wonderful and da 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 da." Which was, I was stoked.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that they're even listening to it.
Yeah, well, because I had texted I texted Dino about it. And I was like, "Yeah, we actually talk about dystopia," and I can't remember which episode it was, but I'm like, "Yeah, it's about the 30-minute mark," and then I never heard back.
Okay.
So I was like, "Yeah, maybe he didn't listen, or he thought it was stupid, or whatever." So for him to actually say, "No, it was awesome, man. I was loving it," and so that was really cool. That was a little cherry on top.
Oh, sure.
And then, because we've been talking about having guests, and we are going to be having some other creative people out there, because I always want to hear the stories behind how someone who's in a creative field got there,
right?
And so I was talking to Heather, and she was like, "Oh, I know this girl who's in this band, and she's doing a podcast about women in art, in music in the Bay Area." And she's like, maybe you could interview her. And she's like, "Ow, Dino, stop punching me. No, maybe you could stop hitting me." And then finally she's like, "Okay, I think what's happening here is Dino wants to be the first one you interview." And so I said, I'm planning on bringing down the little rig, and I was going to film our tattoo session. And I'm like, we could shoot an interview. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be awesome. And we got to figure out how we're going to do it. What's going to end up probably happening is we'll have a podcast where it's kind of just the interview.
Yeah.
And we'll introduce it, and then the audio will play. And if you're watching it on YouTube, you actually get the video.
Yeah, exactly.
Of him doing an interview.
Yeah.
While in pain. Because he's going to be getting tattooed by me.
But wasn't that one of his hopes for it?
Yeah, he's like,
can you interview me while I'm in pain?
Yeah. He's like, can you? Yeah, I'll just be hurting and trying to answer questions and be. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the trip itself, but getting him on camera and in an interview would be pretty epic.
Well,
I know
it would be cool just for me to hear it too, just because it's like, I remember when I hung around him and you and him when I was just a little kid, so and going to his shows and stuff like that. So, but there was only stuff on the surface I knew. I didn't know much, so to kind of do an interview with him, that would I think it would be enlightening and cool to see.
I think you were. Because what would happen is you guys lived in San Jose, California, and then, I'm divorced, so we would switch off the kids.
Split custody.
And I'd pick you up, and there was a bunch of shows at Gilman Street in Berkeley. If you know what it is, it's this epic punk rock venue. And actually, I'm forgetting his name, Billy something from Green Day.
Okay.
Bought their whole sound system for that venue.
Okay.
And but yeah, I would take Ozzy and his brother to Dystopia shows, and he got to witness some epic shows.
Oh yeah.
And then afterward, they got to go to the after party at the compound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there'd be just all these musicians and just people partying and drinking, and you guys would be all wired up on Red Bull.
Yeah.
So you could stay awake.
Yeah, no, I'll forever cherish those memories. I still remember the big booby Asian lady.
Oh,
and then the big leather jumpsuit.
Yeah, we were. It was Hammers and Misfortune.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
And,
that will never leave my mind, because it's like they were playing, and then
she's in a leather suit,
a leather jumpsuit
with like little kind of horns on the shoulders.
Yeah, and she was attractive. And then all of a sudden during the set, she just unzips all the way down, and you can see that she has no bra underneath, and
Yeah,
just
her boobs just kind of
came out.
She was hot.
Yeah, she was hot.
And I mean, she was hot, but it was actually warm on stage.
Yeah, exactly. It was hot.
So she had to unzip herself. And
like knowing the context, it's like it makes sense. But as a kid, like that just blew my mind. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I remember Julian looking at me. His eyes were all big, like, dude, her boobs are out.
Yeah, and then there was the other time where I don't know what band it was, but that we were introduced to them, and then they went on stage and like, this next song is for the two coolest kids in the audience.
Yeah,
they're like the youngest audience members in the crowd right now, Jordan and Julian.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's fucking cool.
Yeah. I want to say it. I think it might have been Hammers of Misfortune.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
So when they started it, and you guys were like totally elated, just because
absolutely.
you're like, whoa, they said our names, you know.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to the trip, looking forward to the interview, and you guys stay tuned. It's coming up soon.
Yeah, it'll be a special one.
It'll be a special one. It's going to be really interesting. But now that we got all that out of the way, we were going to be talking about. So you want to be an artist.
Right. Yeah.
When does a hobby and an interest become a career? When should you make the jump? When should you go for it? And what are the factors? And you're actually kind of going through your own, getting out of a regular kind of job and working towards, you know, this independence that comes with being an artist and a creative person. When do you think it really starts, or when did it begin for you where you're like, you know, this is really what I want to do?
Yeah, I want to say I kind of talked about this on another episode of the podcast earlier on. Yeah, I remember. But I guess to answer just from my perspective, especially kind of having to change my lifestyle a little bit more so that way I can be more dedicated to the craft that I want to do for a living. I think really, because here's the thing, like if you want to be successful, especially in art or creativity or production, like stuff, like, or whether it's video or podcast or YouTube or just art, you know, just like painting, whatever, music,
yeah, anything.
There's a point where, because here's the thing, it's like if a lot of these things start off as a hobby. It started as a hobby for me, like doing art, that started as a hobby. Doing YouTube, that was a hobby, and it still is in a way. You know, even the podcast thing, it started as a hobby, but there became a point where, because I think when I realized I wanted to make this kind of stuff what I wanted to do for a living, was when, like, I was working because I still work in the food industry just to make ends meet. I don't want to anymore. I'm at this point where I want to eventually get the fuck out of it and dedicate myself fully to this. But of course I have to be responsible, and I would recommend you guys do that too. Don't just fucking quit your day job and, you know, when you have no savings or anything like that. For some people that works out, but that's not for everybody, and that's not a smart thing to do for everybody. So don't just take everything I say with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's like the thing that made me kind of real. In fact, I remember it. I remember the exact moment I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I was working at this job called Waterways Cruises and Events. That was my first job out here in Seattle when we were still living at the Dollhouse.
It was like catering for.
Yeah, it was like not necessarily catering. It was like a food. We were making food to bring it on board
this boat,
cruise boats,
right? Okay,
and that they would travel around in the lake.
Lake Union.
Yeah, fancy dinners and lunches on a boat. Basically, that's what it is. And so, and I did a good job. Apparently, they liked me and my ability to, prep all the food and all that stuff. They thought I did a good job. So I'm like, okay, cool. But there came a point where I kind of had this realization where that's not my path. And what what happened was this one guy, Abdullah, who really good guy. He was like, he brings his own knives. He has his own set of knives that he brings into work every day. And pretty much everyone else did. I didn't do that. I just used the stock knives they had, and it was like dull, and I had to sharpen them all the time just to get them to cut things right and stuff like that. And he's like, "Why don't you bring your own knives? Like you just buy yourself a set of knives and bring it with you.
Yeah.
That way you'll be able to get nice cuts every time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it." And I'm like, and it just kind of made me think. I'm like, these guys I don't feel like I belong here, because these guys are way more dedicated.
Yeah.
To the craft of cooking. Yeah. Than I am, because and here's the thing.
Yeah, because they made an investment.
Yeah, they made an investment in
themselves
to make that their career.
Yeah.
And it just made me feel like I was an outsider. And it was like, okay. I kind of already knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for a career, but that especially like cemented it for me. And every time I would do something, for whether it was YouTube or the podcast or whatever, it always feels right for me. It just, being creative feels right. That feels like the thing that that the path that I'm meant to go down. And so to get into, when does that become a career? Or when does your hobby become a career for you? And when should you dedicate yourself to that? Well, you have to have that realization, and you have to be dedicated enough to the craft. You have to want it. You have to really, really want to be a part of this path. And that means you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices. In fact, I had to come to this realization myself, because in fact, in the last podcast, I mentioned that I have been trying to wake up really early in the morning at the crack of dawn so I can get stuff done. Kind of been, wishy-washy about that. I'm trying to, I need to do some things in order to make that more of a regular thing, because I do want to wake up early so I can get stuff done. But yeah, I've kind of just been falling off of that a little bit, just because like I would wake up at 6 and I go up, take a piss, and then I'm going to lay back in bed for a bit, and I fall asleep.
And kids, that is actually the getting up early thing. Is anyone that's really trying to make something happen, they tend to come to the realization that getting up in those wee hours where people are still sleeping, dude, in order to get shit done.
Yeah, those hours
that's
are very
important.
Very valuable.
Yeah, actually, I read a little thing from Warren Buffett, billionaire, and he was like, "You don't have to be smarter. You just have to be more disciplined."
Yeah, exactly.
And it's true.
And yeah, it is true. And that's the thing. It's like, in fact, I had this kind of epiphany not too long ago. There's this guy on YouTube, which, by the way, you may actually, the audience, because you're on YouTube, you might know who I'm talking about. Your Movie Sucks. Great review channel for like movies and stuff like that. Really good channel. But yeah, that guy's a great example of a guy who's dedicated to what he's doing. And he dedicated himself and made sacrifices to dedicate himself to the craft so that he can make something out of it. And he has. And so I've been watching his stream highlights that he does. Or there's this highlight clips channel of his. And one video stuck out to me. It was like, I think it was like, the title was like, "How do you have so much time to do what you do?" Like, and during the video, like, he gets that chat in his chat, and he reads it off. He's like, "How do you have all the time to do music? Your Movie Sucks, and stream games all day?" And I'm like, and he's like, "What do you mean?" Like, I schedule things out in such a way that because I don't just do this every day. I don't just stream
it's just
games
not winging it and doing whatever he wants.
Like he scheduled everything out to be so he can have a constant stream of content to make, and then he, wakes up from the crack of dawn, and from the crack of dawn he's working, and then till the time until he sleeps he's working. And he was talking about making sacrifices, and that means that there's certain people you may not be able to hang out with because you got things to do. You have to do that. And when he was saying all this, I kind of just had this realization. I'm like, and this was during this kind of period where I was kind of having this crisis in my head where I'm like, I'm almost 30. I'm 29. I'm going to be 30 in August. I feel like a failure. I haven't achieved success. All that kind of bullshit. And so when I heard him say all that, I kind of had to dig deep and really look at myself and go, have I been doing everything I needed to do in order to get to where I am? And the answer is no, I have not been. And so I kind of came to this realization that I have to make these sacrifices and I have to do what I need to do. And that was a very valuable moment for me to have. And because the reality is what separates people who make it doing something they love versus people that don't, is, at least in my opinion, is you're either ambitious and dedicated and disciplined and you are constantly working towards that thing, or you're half-assing it and you're not going to go anywhere.
And you're complaining.
About it.
Why isn't this working?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. If you're having to come to that question, like, why is it not working? What I love the thing I'm doing. Really? Do you? Are you doing enough work are you from the crack of dawn working towards your thing until the end of the night? Or are you just going half-assing it, and then at the end of the night you go to the fucking bar with your friends and then get wasted?
Yeah, that's my experience was very similar. And I can't remember where the 10,000 hour rule comes from. But it's the idea that to really be prepared for anything that you really want to do, you got to put in 10,000 hours of practice. For me, I always wanted to be an artist, but I was told I couldn't. So I just did art anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm sure by the time I was 18 or 19, 20, I definitely put in my 10,000 hours, which equates to something like 4 years of work. But yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that point of whether it's going to stay a hobby or it's going to really turn into something that's real and tangible as a business. And I mean, let's see, back it was 2019. That's when I came up with the idea of third gen media. And I stepped to you and I'm like, I need someone to edit stuff, which you had never thought of. You'd always thought of like your editing and everything was just only useful for your YouTube content.
Right.
You'd never thought outside the box of anything else that you could do it for. So I remember it was kind of like a little light bulb came on. Wait a minute, I could do that. And so we started that, and I wanted to launch this company. And I have a career in tattooing. And I'd never really ran a business. So one of the things, because I am serious about this business, I actually had to like take some classes on how to run a business, And I think a lot of people that are doing things as a hobby, they can really love doing the thing, but there's this extra layer, if not multiple layers, that you have to peel away to make it into something that's a business.
Right.
And which normally when you talk about sacrifices, you end up doing things that you don't really want to do. It's easy to just relax and do it how you want and not have a schedule and you want to let her out.
Yeah.
We're going to let the dog out because who let the dogs out?
I did.
So, but yeah, she's whining and carrying on.
Yeah, she's wailing.
But yeah, I would say that in general, when you want to make something into a career that's a creative endeavor, you're going to have to make those sacrifices and do things that you don't necessarily want to do. If it was up to me, I would just learn things by osmosis. I want to learn how to, I don't know, do surgery, and I just go get a book on surgery and I go to sleep and I put the book under my pillow. And when I wake up, it's all in my brain. But that's not realistic, and that's not how things work.
Not how it works at all.
You got to put in the time and the effort. And actually, this kind of goes into the other part of what we were going to talk about, which was, maybe the problem, especially for people who have a hobby and they are saying that they want to make it into something serious, and they're quote unquote trying, and they're not seeing the results that they think they should be seeing.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, and you came up with this, it's like, well, perhaps the problem is you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where it comes into a situation where you have to be self-reflective as to who you are and what you really want. Because I know this as a tattoo artist. You know how many people I have heard over the years say, man, I would love to be a tattoo artist. If not that, someone who's like, I do want to be a tattoo artist. And I've actually, remember B?
Yeah.
B was this girl that knew my youngest son, and she said she wanted to be a tattoo artist. She actually moved from Portland to Seattle to be my apprentice. And then, I didn't own a shop. I'm working in a shop, but I have so much experience. I went to the owner and I'm like, hey, I got this girl that I'm going to take on as an apprentice. Is that cool with you? And he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm. So she's coming into the tattoo studio and, doing the apprentice thing. And I was like, you're not going to be tattooing anyone probably for 6 months to a year. I want to, because the reason is I want to see that you're dedicated to this.
Yeah.
She eventually quit.
Yeah.
And actually, when I talked to my son, my youngest son, he was saying, well, she was complaining that you said that she couldn't tattoo and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, she has to learn to draw good enough. She has to learn how to, I would take certain designs that are just line designs. Mm-hmm. And I would say, okay, this is what you do. And I would make a copy of it, but I'd turn down the opacity. Mm-hmm. So the lines are there, but it's very faint.
Right.
And then I'm like, take this micron pen and as perfect as you can do it, just re-outline it.
Right.
Because it teaches that muscle memory.
Yeah. And I can actually speak to that as well, because I've done that too.
Yeah.
Because I was apprenticing under you.
Yeah.
For a bit. Who knows what's going to happen with that in the future? But at this point, we got other things to focus on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was doing that for a while, and you were like, "Hey, just learn to do straight or long, continuous lines."
Yeah,
and it's hard. It's hard work.
It really is. Yeah. And that's why I was sitting there telling her, "This is what you have to practice." I actually had a guy I worked with also, who, I'm working with him, and I did a portrait. And he said, "Oh man, can you teach me how to do a portrait?" I'm like, "Teach you how to do a portrait?" He's like, "Yeah, can you teach me how to tattoo a portrait?" And I said, "Well, sure, yeah." And I gave him a piece of paper, and I gave him a pencil, and said, find a picture of a face, and then do an outline of it, trace an outline, and then now you got the outline. Now you look at the picture and you shade it according to what you're seeing in the picture. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, I mean, can you teach me how to tattoo a portrait? And I'm like, you have to learn how to do a portrait on paper first.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, there are steps.
People are looking for shortcuts all the time.
No, yeah,
and that's what ends up where people are like complaining and, why isn't it where I don't understand? I'm not good enough. And it's like, well, maybe the problem is you.
Right, exactly. No, that's the thing. Yeah, there's so many people that they think there are shortcuts to getting to the top of the thing, or getting to be successful at the thing that they want to do. And it just goes to show how just the problem that I've seen a lot. In fact, I've dealt with this myself. You have, when you're starting out doing a thing, you kind of have this fantastical view of something. You have here you go. You end up having this very fantastical view of things. So you think you know what the fuck you think you know what's going on. You think you know how things are supposed to be done, but the reality is, it's not like that. For example, YouTube. YouTube's a great example because like there are plenty of fucking people on YouTube who'll start out off a YouTube channel, and they think that there are just a few steps they can take, like just a few perfect. They could just watch a few videos on how to tag their stuff and how to write descriptions and
how to do thumbnails.
Yeah, how to do thumbnails, and to do everything they need to do to just immediately start getting thousands of views. And then they do that, and they put in some sort of work, and they upload their videos for like a month, and they're not getting that much views at all. And they're like, what the fuck? I was doing everything these people were telling me to. Fucking, and they just want to quit. And it's like, well, here's the thing, man. First of all, nobody knows who you are. First of all. So nobody's going to be looking for your content. Second of all, your content might not be as good as you think it is. Like you may have done thumbnails and you may have wrote descriptions and tags and all that stuff to get the better SEO and stuff like that. But is your content good?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just are you promoting yourself properly? Are you promoting your shit on social media? Are you doing that stuff? Like, there's all these things that these people don't consider, and also sometimes it just takes fucking time. In fact, Harris Heller from Alpha Gaming, like he said this himself. He's like, dude, I didn't just start making this my living doing these kind of videos on YouTube or streaming on Twitch. Because just because I just hit that sweet spot just right. It took him years to get to where he is.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Alpha Gaming, I would recommend 2 channels if you want to get into making videos. Watch Alpha Gaming or Harris Heller, whatever you want to. Harris Heller.
Okay.
So, and then he has an editor that works for him, Sam Woodhall, who does a lot of good videos on like editing and stuff like that. Making thumbnails and all that stuff. Very good channels. In fact, I watched their stuff more recently now, just because I'm still trying to up your my game.
Yeah.
So, and there are sometimes things where I'll watch a video and I'm learning things I didn't even know about. So I'm like, I gotta apply that to my shit next time.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do. The fact of the matter is, the difference between someone who is super dedicated and someone who is not is a person who's not dedicated and is just destined for a 9-to-5 is a person that will try something out for just a month or a few days or a week or whatever, and then they quit.
Unrealistic.
Yeah, because they have unrealistic expectations. Whereas a dedicated person might get disappointed at the bad results, but they'll look because again, sometimes the things you need to do, and it's going to be uncomfortable. In fact, embrace discomfort because that's what separates someone who ends up succeeding versus not succeeding, because you're going to have to make sacrifices and do things you may not have thought you were going to have to do, but you're going to have to do them. And the thing is, a dedicated person that really is into their craft and wants to make it, they will look inwards and go, what am I not doing? What am I not doing in comparison to these other people? Do my thumbnails suck? Do my titles and description, are they not really as good as I hoped they would be? Maybe I should learn how to do that better. I don't know. Or maybe my editing is not very good. Maybe my videos are not as well produced. There's all these things they could learn. Or better yet, maybe they just need to go to Fiverr and fucking or pay someone to make some logos or some shit. I don't know. Make their YouTube page pop out a little bit more. It's because, learn your limitations, but also learn the things that you need to learn in order to get to where you want to be.
And the fact that along the learning line, as you were talking, I was thinking about this. If you really love the thing you do, you're never going to get to a point where you're just like, I've learned everything I need to. I'm good.
No,
you're always going to continue to learn. I mean, like even as a tattoo artist, I tend to try and have, clients and tattoos that are a challenge for me, because the fact that it is a challenge means I have to, overcome certain issues as I'm composing the tattoo or doing the tattoo. And from these things, I'm continually learning. And I really look at it if you feel like, you don't have to just continue to learn more about the thing that you're interested in or the career that you're trying to have, you might as well quit.
Yeah.
Because, it's very important. There's one, there's no shortcuts.
No.
Two, you have to have dedication to your craft. And three, you have to be consistent at it. And then you got to let go of these unrealistic expectations. You can set goals. Mm-hmm. You might be like, I got 800 followers. My goal is to get to 1,000.
Right.
If you're sitting there going, I got 800 subscribers, why don't I have 1 million? It's not fair, this and that. That's not how it works.
Right.
And yes, sometimes someone hits the lottery. And when I say that, I'm talking about, I grew up in Southern California, LA, Hollywood's out there, and there are Greyhound buses that stop downtown in Los Angeles or in Hollywood every day with young people getting off the bus and hoping to make it in movies. Yeah. And, every once in a while, lightning strikes or someone's at the right place at the right time that hit, their career suddenly takes off, which is like going viral, basically.
Yeah.
And it does happen, but don't hold on to the hope that that's going to happen, instead of doing what you need to do and putting in the work. I mean, it's literally again, I say winning the lottery, not paying attention to your finances and spending your money frivolously in the hope that you're going to win the lottery.
Right. Don't do that.
That's a horrible way to approach life in general. So
also on the topic of going viral and all that kind of shit. In fact, the lottery example is a great example because there's always these stories that you'll read about these people that win the lottery. Mm-hmm. And then a few, like, where are they now? Like a few years later, they're like fucking doing heroin in a dumpster.
Or he's working at being a trash collector.
Yeah, or working at the IHOP or some shit.
Yeah.
Because they wasted all their money and didn't invest it or anything like that. Yeah. And
not smart.
Same with going viral. Like, you can make that one video that just hits the algorithm just right. It's everything just lines up perfectly, and they get millions of views. They get millions of subscribers from it. But I've seen this happen so many times where that happens to a YouTube creator or just an internet person in general, and then they try to ride that. They try to ride that out or try to capture that success again. They just can't, and they don't know why. And and I think part of that is just because when they see that, they kind of get complacent. So they're like, oh, well, clearly I'm super good. And then they make another video and it's not good, or it's just not as good as that viral hit that they had. And then they're wondering why their videos are not getting the same amount of views anymore. And it's like, well, dude, because you became complacent. You thought, oh, well, you hit the lottery. Now I can just spend purposely and do whatever I want. Yeah. No, you have to fucking be on top of your shit. You gotta, cause especially like with the lottery example, it's like, just because you got all that millions of dollars in the lottery, that doesn't mean you should just spend it on a fucking mansion and Ferraris or Lamborghinis or whatever, and just thinking that your money's not going to disappear. Dude, taxes come up. You're going to have to fucking pay that shit. Mm-hmm. And not even just that, but it's like, dude, once you have the money, you need to find ways to keep it. Mm. And if you can't do that, well, that money's going to disappear.
Yep.
So back to the, the example of being a creative and when, whether it's you or, like, why are you the problem, all that kind of shit. It's like, at the end of the day, it's like there's so many things you need to learn because, in fact, there's a saying that's like, never be the master, always be the student. Mm. And it's true because if you stop learning and you stop learning how to make your shit better consistently, eventually you're gonna notice that diminishing of returns, where it's like you're not, because you're not putting in the exact same amount of work to get to where you wanted to be. You're just not gonna see that growth. It's just gonna stop, and it might even go down. You know, so I don't know exactly where I was going with that. I think you know what I'm trying to say, though.
Yeah, I do. But yeah, and I think this is another one of our interesting conversations. Again, I'll say it once more. The reason why, I came up with this podcast, the Crooke Candle Podcast, just basically was because I was a young artist. I'm 50 years old. So when I was a young artist, there was no such thing as a podcast.
Right.
Yeah. If you wanted to learn something about art, or you might get a book or a biography on a certain artist and, pour through it to try and find little hidden gems. And there wasn't, that's how you had to do it. And so I did this for you guys out there, not only just because it's interesting artistic conversations and stuff, which are interesting to listen to in and of themselves, but the aspect of bringing value to young artists or artists that are striving to make a career out of what they're doing. I really wanted to give back. I wanted to offer the insights of a life spent as an artist, because it's invaluable information. So what we're talking today about was, taking personal stock of, who you are as an artist, and if maybe you're not doing the things that are necessarily going to, make your career actually happen. And, don't get discouraged. Being an artist is a long road. It is not it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You gotta learn to pace yourself. You gotta learn to have the right mindset. You have to continually attempt to grow and learn as a creative person. And then you have to be dedicated and consistent about it. If you do these things, you will eventually get there. And I'll tell you why. And this is the last thing I was going to say. I know so many different artists who are not famous.
Right.
They're not famous. People don't know who this person is in Japan or Australia or anything else. But they're winning because you get to talk to them. Same with me. They're like, I have a 20-year career. Every day when I get up to do what I do, it's something that I really enjoy doing. I've taken on the business aspect of being a creative person, and I'm here. This is what I do. I'm living this way. I'm not sitting in a cubicle, in a corporate environment,
exactly.
that sucks from my soul instead of like adds to my experience.
Actually, now when you were saying that, the thing is, I think another thing people have a problem with is like they think success is being known by everybody and having like millions of social media followers or subscribers, or like being an e-celeb or celebrity or whatever, have your name on billboards and shit like that. It's like, well, no, it's like I think the problem that people have is that they think they know what success is, and so they have this warped idea of what being successful is, when in reality, because to me, it's like, as far as I'm concerned, I know I'll be successful when I'm actually doing this shit for a living, and I'm doing it full time. That to me is success. To me, to be able to say, yeah, what do I do for a living? I do video production for clients, and I do a podcast on the side, and I do my own YouTube channels. I make a few bucks here and there from that, and I'm doing this full time. I'm a creative person as a full-time job. And to me, that's success.
Yeah.
And I think what people need to do is they need to kind of change their thought process on what success is.
Yeah,
reframe it, because like, would it be nice to be a fucking multi-billionaire, or maybe I couldn't say whether that would be a good thing because I would probably be a little nervous about being a billionaire. Just because I would have a target on my back, I would feel.
Yeah.
But to be, successful and like have millions of dollars and stuff like that, yeah, sure, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But to me, that's not necessarily what success is. Success isn't the money. Mm-hmm. It's the ability to do what you want to do and have the freedom to do what you want to do constantly, year after year.
And it's going to grow. Like, people who are successful, they don't eventually just rest on their laurel.
No.
They want more success. They want to continue.
Right.
They want to grow. So once you learn that, you realize I'm in the same boat as you, even though I have a creative career.
Right.
I still, to this day, because like I said, I want to be a painter. Mm-hmm. I want to paint oil paints, and I want to sell them for big money. That's been my dream since I've been a kid. I have not attained that. But I don't say to myself, I'm not successful, or I'm not successful enough, or whatever. I am successful. And that vision for myself, that goal for myself to eventually have a life where I'm just a painter. Mm-hmm. I am an actual visual artist that does oils on canvases. That has been my goal, and it continues to be my goal. And every day I take one step, one, and then another step. Eventually, you could be lost in a forest and you can't see, that you got to get through this forest to get to the town. You can't see the town.
Right.
And you can be walking and you can't see the town. As long as you're going in the right direction, you don't worry about the fact that you can't see the end result. Mm-hmm. You just take one more step every day. You will eventually get there, which is the goal. So with that, I think we're going to...
Yeah, I think this is a perfect time to end the
podcast. Thanks for listening, you guys. We are Crooke Candle. You can find us anywhere you listen to your podcasts, and we're also on YouTube, and you get to see our very handsome faces. But we look forward to our next podcast, and, if you'd like to reach out to us or give us any feedback, again, we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram. So if you want to send us a DM or make any kind of comments, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Follow us on social media. All the links to all of that stuff is down in the description below.
And with that, we are out. We will see you next week. Peace.